Okay.
It says we're live. Doesn't mean we're live.
I don't know.
Hey, Brett Chittum here. It's always suspect, but Brett Chittum here with CNWR and Business Technicalities, and I'm here with
Jason Slago, CNWR, and
Alex Farling, formerly Lifecycle Insights. Yeah,
formerly
just some guy now. Yeah,
I don't know if you're just some guy.
Just some guy.
One of the things that Alex has done within our community is really shown the importance of account management, right? And what it can do for a business, what it has done for our industry. And so, we have him on here, and I think Jason's got kind of an outline of things you want to talk about and bring up. And no surprise questions, though, I promise you, Alex.
Yeah, so we want to talk about account management today, right? It's been probably one of the most impactful things that we've done in our business is, formalize an account management structure, right? Everyone does account management, right? If you have customers, in some way you're managing accounts. Right. And there are ad hoc ways to do it, and there are more structured ways to do it. And we have learned through many years of trials and tribulations that the more structured ways of doing it are the way. And as far as how to do that, Alex here is the man as far as knowing the things you need to know and to doing the things you need to do to successfully do account management.
Well, I like to think of it like this: either you're managing your accounts or they're managing you. And it is way better if you go out and lead proactively and take them where you want them to drink instead of them leading you to water. Because if they lead you to water, it generally doesn't taste very good. We get into that reactive thing of my client doesn't understand what we do for them. They only call when they need something. When they do that, they're always pissed off, and we don't have the right relationship, right? And really, the unsung hero there is all the money that we can make if we actually just go meet our client where they are and do proper account management, because we're leaving a ton of money on the table if we just do it proactively or reactively.
Yeah, right. Increasingly too, I'm actually about halfway through the MSP Handbook Sassy Edition one that they just came out with. And I think that whole movement, the movement to the cloud and shadow ops and shadow IT even furthers the need to have good account management, because if you don't, then they're going up and you're in their way, right? If you're properly running an MSP, then your end users don't have admin access on anything, right? So they can't go spin up new software and stuff they want to play with. So what do they do instead? They go get a new cloud account to do something
where they can have admin, right?
So, you basically just moved where, instead of people installing random software on their PCs, now they're just spinning up random cloud apps, and you are very much in trouble if you don't get that in check for a number of reasons.
The other way to say that is they're just randomly throwing your data out on somebody else's computer, right? Yeah. I mean, we don't think about spinning up cloud apps as really as dirty and evil as it is. What's really happening is we're losing control of our business data.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
that's a problem.
Those things have compromises, and then you have good policies around them. Without your help, they probably can't do SSO. Right. Mm-hmm. So, sometimes I think that's how MSPs find out about it. They wanted the customer spins up this cloud app, and now they want to do SSO. So they engage the MSP to turn SSO onto this cloud app. And you're like, huh? How did this get here?
Well, and some of the MSPs are lucky enough to be running the right tool stack, and they'll actually go through and say, hey, one of my SaaS monitoring apps popped up and said, hey, I saw something new with this customer. Those are the ones who are a step ahead. The rest of us are figuring it out when we get the first troubleshooting call about that cloud app.
Yeah, and we've actually just in the past 6 months started rolling Sasslio out via Auvik, and then the LTS side had it already for some of their clients, and it's pretty telling the number of things. It's a little noisy and it takes a little bit of time to get the tuning down, but from an account management standpoint, right, having conversations around the data and are you really using all these cloud apps? When you get the best thing is, when you're meeting with that CEO or the owner of, the small business that you're serving, and they don't know that one of their employees has spun up a cloud app, that's always a really interesting conversation.
Yeah. One of the best things I love about those conversations is, Mr. CEO, how many apps do you think your customer or your business runs in the cloud? Oh, 12. Well, would you believe me if I told you it was 27? Because it's actually 27, and I can prove it to you. And it gets even better when you get to have the conversation about, oh, and by the way, Brett is logging in with Jason's credentials to this app,
Yep.
and somebody's logging in with sales at cnwr.com. And we're obviously sharing that password all over the place. So, we get into, hey, not only are cloud apps places where we don't know that our data went, but they're places where all of our security best practices just go out the window. And now we encourage a bad culture that goes around everything that we've spent all this time building internally. So, as account managers, we have to know that stuff exists out there, which means we have to engage and have conversations with our customers, which is really what account management all comes back to, is finding the time and the place to go engage and have conversations with your customer.
Well, I really like what you've done here, Jason, in building an account management program, totally related around the client and that focus, just like what you're talking about. Because I like how the account manager, when they're setting up their appointment, is going to go to the tech team, the service team, and actually look over things and have conversations so that they have a clearer understanding of what is going on in that environment.
And I take zero credit for that. 100% of the credit goes to Alex and Ben for kind of solidifying and defining that. Yeah. So what do you consider the primary hallmark of what an account manager should do? I'm throwing you a stop.
Well, yeah, for starters, let's break out and make sure we identify that there are 3 distinct responsibilities in an MSP. We have account management, which is, for all intents and purposes, inside sales, right? This is the guy who makes sure that they're buying all of our products and services, that they do all their renewals, that they replace computers when they're supposed to be replaced, et cetera.
Yep.
We have salespeople. Those people go out and drum up new business. They add new MRR to the business. And then we have VCIOs. And all too often, I see folks who are pretending to do VCIO and calling it VCIO. They're not focused on compliance. They're not focused on, critical safeguards and things like that. They're just focused on going out and selling the customer more of their stuff. And this is the account management role. So the account manager probably has a quota, probably has some responsibility for client retention. And their entire job is making sure that this relationship is just silky smooth. The client loves and appreciates us, understands the value that we bring to the table, and has a good enough relationship to us that they'll come to us when there's a problem instead of going to get somebody else to come replace us when there's a problem. Right. The big struggle with more an MSP is we spend a million touch points before someone becomes a customer. And as we onboard them, we work really hard to make sure a customer knows, likes, and trusts us. We get them onboarded. Everything's good. We've got good documentation. Let's imagine that our onboarding went perfectly and smoothly, because that happens every day in the MSP space. Right. But now we've got this person who kind of likes us, and then we just stop talking to them.
Yeah.
We never call, we never write, we never send a Christmas card. We just wait for the phone to ring. And every time they call, then they're pissed off because they have a trouble ticket.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's, as long as I've been in the IT space, I've felt that way largely about consultants, right? Like, and that's what we do in the end, is we're consultants. But for the most part, it's a weird thing where you tend to only get calls when things are broken, and the more broken they are, the more money you make, right? So one of the big reasons that we went to the full MSP model is to try to flip that on the head, right? Like, I make the most money when there are no problems, but the risk you run there is exactly what you just said, because you don't. It's very easy for the client to lose sight of the value you're bringing if they only hear from you when things are broken. You need to constantly remind them that things are not broken because you're doing your job.
Right. And we can only beat that drum so hard, right? We can't go run in the office and go, hey, look at all the trouble tickets I did behind the scenes that you didn't care about. Look at all the patches I patched and all the anti-spams I anti-spammed and all the antiviruses I antivirused. Nobody cares, right? What they really care about is that you have some strategic direction. And I talk to MSPs about this all the time. Like, I haven't been an MSP for over 3 years. I'm probably no longer qualified to be an MSP because I wasn't turning wrenches and doing the technical work for 5 years before that, right? So 8 years out of the industry, absolutely unqualified in today's cybersecurity space to go actually be the implementer. But I could go swipe a credit card tomorrow and have every tool that CNWR has and call myself an MSP and go become your competitor.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So So if I with business experience, with life experience, with MSP experience can go do that, imagine the guy off the street who has no business being there, right? They can go do the exact same thing. They can go become who you are, and they can say, I only use the best tools. I hire the best people. We answer the phones the fastest. We do all these unaccountable things. Really, the thing that differentiates you from your competitor today is not the tools. It's not anything but the process.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so if you have this account management process, it's real easy for you to come to your customer and say, hey, in the CNWR way, what happens with a customer your size is we meet with you this often. We have these kind of interactions. This is how we let you know you're winning the cybersecurity battle. This is how we let you know what we need from you next. This is how we remove surprises and make IT into more than just a cost center in your business. And if you can clearly spell that out to a customer, and this is why I think account managers are valuable in the sales process. You bring them along for the last couple of sales calls and go, I'm going to turn you over to a guy like this and let me have him tell you what it feels like to do business with us. That's more valuable than a sales guy in there making promises all day long.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've seen multiple ways in this MSP space now that I've been in it for the short time I've been in it. And it's interesting how people just think, oh yeah, I'm going to have all this money to spend. I'm going to make all this money, but yet not understand how to keep the customer happy and show value in what you're doing.
Well, there's a class of MSP that is very sales driven that I think that they also don't engage in account management because they're basically just out selling the churn.
Right.
I mean, we in our space that are also doing the same thing and also don't have good account management because I think it flows both ways, right? The most effective vendors that I deal with have some semblance of account management or at least somebody that like hassles me. I don't know. Maybe I'm a special little flower there.
Yeah, but you don't like
we won't get into that.
Yeah.
But you know, the crazy thing is
Jason too often, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, then you get a special call out on social media. But there's a thing that we proved at Lifecycle Insights over and over with our customers, and that was that sub $1 million, 800, 900,000 in MRR, a dedicated full-time account manager will actually make an MSP more money than they cost them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty insane. If you think about the amount of MRR they can add, the amount of projects that they can queue up, it was not uncommon for us to go, hey, we hired an account manager, and somebody come back to us and say, we hired an account manager, and we had to ask them to slow down because now we have to beef up the service team because they've created so many projects for us. And for a long time as MSPs, we said any non-recurring revenue is no good. We don't want it. We only want MRR. But man, there's so much money left on the table in projects, and it is high margin revenue.
I don't think that's true, by the way. When you start having just acquired and having had a lot of discussions in the M&A space, as much as it looks bad if you only have 20% MRR, it looks also bad if you only have 5% non-MRR, right? Like there is an expectation that there are projects that come along with these with the recurring revenue, and if you don't have any, then it's a sign that you're turning something down. And so much of this stuff is about not leaving an opportunity for your competitor to get in there, right? Like, because, one of the big sales things that, we're pushing right now is that, like, let us help out with the gap that your current provider doesn't help with if you're under contract with the provider. Because I don't want a customer that's willing to break contract to come to me because it means they're willing to break my contract to go to the next guy, right? So I won't talk to a customer that's willing to break contract to come to me unless they're having a really bad time and it's breach, right, essentially. But what I will do is, if the existing provider is not managing backups correctly, I'll manage backup or manage network or any number of other things all day of the week, right? And then when that renewal comes around, then they're open for me to talk to.
Well, and if you think about the project component here, the other thing is how many projects just go undone if we don't do them, right? And each of those is a security vulnerability. And I know this for a fact. Every MSP out there should be selling every customer they have an Office 365 security project, right? Let's go show them what the security score looks like. Let the customer say, I thought you were doing this for me. Please explain to me why this isn't 100. And then challenge you to go back to that customer and explain to them that if you made it 100, their email would not function.
Yeah.
And you guys need to work together to figure out a balance between security and functionality, and then go deploy that balance, right?
That is a battle we fight every day.
But I could tell you that the average security score going into Lifecycle Insights was something like a 35.
Yeah.
That is not secure.
Yeah, Microsoft security score. Yeah. I mean, we drive into the 70s, the low 80s. Like you never get 100.
Yeah.
But this is a project that at most MSPs just goes undone.
Yeah.
And that's revenue that if your account manager's in front of your customer, having the conversation, making sure that they understand why you weren't doing it in the first place, but why it's important today and probably more important than ever. This is revenue that an account manager can generate for you. And the best part of it is it's easy revenue, because once you deploy something for one customer, guess what? You already have the PowerShell script. You just go run it on the next one and the next one. And
You churn it.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about a 90% margin project.
Yeah. So while Tom has appeared, and want to talk about this for a minute, the overzealous sales training events seem to push the MRR only myth. How do we combat that?
I'm a firm believer that the MRR only thing is a myth. I think that in our industry we have a bad habit of listening to vendors who have something to gain by us showing up for the workshop and following what they taught us in the workshop. And it's really hard for an MSP to discern the difference between the guy who is at the front of the room telling them the best practice because it's the best practice, or the guy who's at the front of the room giving them the best practice that happens to be the best practice that sells more of my sprockets or widgets or cogs or agent licenses. And we have to unpack every single thing we hear in this space. And it's bad, but it's necessary. We have to unpack every single thing we hear in the space to make sure that it's not just another sales pitch to buy a license.
Yeah. For the most part, when I go to events and talk to people, one of the first things in my mind is, okay, what are their intentions in saying this, right? Like,
what's in it for them?
What do each of us have to gain? And there are people in the industry, you, I think, are one of them. That legitimately want to see people get better, right? And there is enough money and stuff out there that you can eat and you can be happy and well off without having to be gross about it.
We did insanely well by not being gross, because when you approach this industry without being gross and treat your MSP like they treat their customer, all of a sudden they go, "Ooh, you're weird and different."
Oh, I lost your audio there, Alex. Yeah. Oh, Alex is having audio difficulties. Well, hopefully he'll be back here in a second.
Yeah, we'll try to get him back and see. He's got the same headset I do. Notice that?
Yeah, I see that.
So
there you go. He's muted now. Oh, you're muted in StreamYard now.
Unmute yourself.
I can unmute you, I think.
No.
Oh, their mic isn't connected. Oh, maybe we lost Alex.
No, he's still there. We're just going to talk about him while we go. Well, I coming from the industry I was in insurance for so long, and it was about, do you sell a customer a policy just to sell them a policy, or you sell them a policy that actually is going to meet their needs? And that's why IT has resonated with me, because it's about protecting the client, not just a semblance of protection, but a protection that's actually going to meet their needs. And part of protecting them is knowing when systems are end of life, is knowing when this is something that's going on within their company, and we bring it to their attention to help them. So we help them mitigate risk, right? Yeah.
So I hope you guys can hear me now.
Yes, we got you now.
Yay.
Threw away my aftershocks and went with the fancy built-in audio here. So sorry if it sounds funky. But yeah, I mean, to your point, Brett, we're consultants.
Mm-hmm.
And part of consulting is just saying, hey, here's what your expenses are going to look like in the near future. And this is a thing you need to be aware of. It was insane to me that when I went digging around in the industry, because we built Lifecycle Insights to solve the problem I had, right? I had a problem at my MSP. I was trying to relegate account management. I was trying to get out of it. I was trying to delegate it to my team. And when I handed it off, I didn't get a consistent experience. So I went looking for tools that would automate it, make it easier, kind of put some training wheels on the process. And I couldn't find one. They just didn't exist. And the hardest part was I couldn't find a tool to help my team build a budget for my customer.
Right.
My customer going to me, hey, I'm tired of the surprises, right? Knock, knock, I need money. Should not be the rallying cry of the MSP, but for too long it was. So we really doubled down on, hey, we're going to build this platform that helps MSPs deliver their clients a budget. And as a consultant, how simple is this? Like, this is I'm going to rip the surprises out of 2024 and 2025 and 2026. So today I can tell you which year is going to suck, and we can plan for it ahead of time. That is not a novel concept. That is not. That's a simple idea that we should have been able to do for 20 years. And the tools just haven't existed.
And it's made things, we do that with the clients now as we do CBRs with them, and it makes it nice because when it's time to spend that money, then it's usually just a formality.
Yeah, it's not a shock.
It's not and it's not even a thing that you spend more than 5 minutes on during the process. Then, right? It's hey, we've been talking about this for a year. We know it's coming. Like, I brought along the quote for replacement workstations, replacement servers, and they're like, oh yeah, nope, I knew you were here, and they sign it, right? It doesn't need to be. There's no sales effort involved in it then, and it's a better experience for every single person involved in that.
And in an industry where we don't like being salespeople, right? We're not comfortable saying the words. We're just not the same human being as the typical sales guy. We're typically a little more introverted and just not comfortable going out and going, hey, Mr. Customer, will you please spend money with me? It's way easier to say, hey, I think it's about time to do the thing we've been talking about for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And having that relationship. Yeah, having that relationship with the client and the customer is important. And that's what gets you to that conversation, right? It's building that relationship, not always trying to sell, but always trying to be a value and a resource.
Yeah.
100%. And you use the word value, and that's one of my favorite words when we talk about these. Everybody talks about the QBR. I've been telling everybody lately to rename it the quarterly budget review instead of the quarterly business review. The MSPs who have not typically done a good job of account management go to their client and say, hey, it's time for us to have your quarterly business review. And the client goes, everything's running just fine. Yeah. I don't need to meet. We're all good. Please go away. If you're hearing that, that is a red flag. That means last time. Yeah, that's a you problem. It means last time you didn't deliver enough value that they feel the urge to come back to the table. You probably went in every QBR in the past and tried to sell them one more $2 widget. Carl Bickmore says he had a client who called him $2 Carl because he kept coming back asking for $2 every time he showed up. I was guilty of that. We all did it.
Yeah.
Because we weren't budgeting, we weren't forecasting, we weren't doing these things out in the future. So I've been telling these folks, like, go rename that quarterly business review to a quarterly budget review. And if your customer says, no, it's fine, we don't need to meet, it's really easy for me to go, okay, Jason, I get it. I know you're busy and your time is valuable, but I'm pretty sure you don't want me to write your budget for the next 18 months without your input. If you're giving me the okay to spend whatever we need to spend to keep you secure, then I'll go ahead and do that. But I'm pretty sure you want to meet for that call, right?
Yeah.
Very easy pushback on that.
Yeah.
But then you have to deliver. You have to show up for the meeting and not trying to sell them something, not go over patch stats and backup stats and all that crap.
Yeah, I don't care about any of that. Like, we don't. In our QBRs, we gloss over that, right? Like, if we even bring it up at all, it's in the reports, how many tickets, right? Like, but customers don't care about that. They don't even a little bit. I have one customer that'll ask about those numbers.
Yep.
Right. Like,
and that's probably because they don't know how else to hold you accountable. So they ask for something so that they don't sound. It's like when I go to look at cars. Like, if they open the hood, I go ahead and look under it. It's obligatory that I look under the hood. Yeah. If there's an engine there,
what are you gonna do?
Right.
Just don't buy a Tesla. You're like, huh?
Right. if I looked in there and the engine was upside down, I wouldn't really know.
Yeah,
right.
And this is the customer that's asking us about those statistics, right? They know they're supposed to hold us accountable for something, so they're going to ask about that. But I kind of have this benchmark that is it tactical or is it strategic?
Yeah.
If it's tactical, could have been an email, could have been a phone call, could have been a ticket, like one of these scorecard numbers. Then we can either remove it from the QBR altogether and move it over into a service check-in meeting. And we have a lot of partners from Lifecycle that are having these 10 to 15 minute service check-in meetings once a month. My service manager picks up the phone. Maybe the account manager joins. Hey, let's go over tickets for the last quarter, tickets for the last month. Like, what was the thing that took up too much time? What was the thing that caused you too much downtime? Are you really comfortable with your escalation path? Do you know how to get help when you need it? Like, go do those things with your service manager, and let your CIO or your owner or your leadership team go get the CEO, the CFO, the COO, the board of directors, the frontline managers, all the right people in the room for this big, expensive QBR,
and keep it on track and strategic and big future planning. So kind of strip out those non-valuable things and just go have that call with your point of contact. And that really came from an account that we had where the point of contact was super noisy. She was giving us a hard time all the time, and we felt like we were doing good work. And we realized she just didn't feel like she had a relationship. And when our service manager kind of rebuilt that relationship over time, we got to where those meetings were shorter and shorter. We'd hop on the call and she'd go, I don't have anything for you this time. Sorry for wasting your time. And it seemed like she loved us after that. So if you've got clients who are giving you trouble, like a few extra touches probably makes the difference. And that's where account management is so powerful.
Yeah. We've been doing that with one of our clients currently. They wanted a weekly call for that same instance of what's going on, what's transpiring. So, and it's been helpful. Actually, the last couple of calls, he's like, I really don't have nothing to talk about. I guess everything's going well.
And that's when you reach out and go, hey, does it make sense for us to bump this to a biweekly meeting? Right.
Yeah. And that's what they're doing.
In the loop. Like, let's not lose all the good work we put in.
Yeah, this client has a lot of balls in flight because when we took them over, I mean, this is going to be a year-long remediation project just because of how many out-of-date line of business apps there were, right? So it's they had a lot of balls in the air, and it's when you have a lot of balls in the air, it can get a little bumpy, even if you're doing things right, like you're trying to move line of business apps to new servers and updating all of the workstations. It can be bumpy, and
so you bring up another great point, like. When we do projects for customers as MSPs, we barely ever do project check-in meetings.
Yeah.
Right. If you've got a lot of projects going on, or even one big project with a customer, give them a weekly 10-minute project catch-up. Like, let's the problem is our tools don't present projects well to customers. Right?
Yeah, they don't. And
any of the MSP tools, I'm not throwing shade at anybody because they all suck at it.
The other thing is that most MSPs what they use as project managers don't actually have a project management background, because a real project manager, if you told them you weren't going to have a status update meeting, they would lose their their shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's a big part of what they do.
Right.
I got a whole PNP certification to learn how to run this meeting.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree. And it's one of those things where as MSPs, we're always moving fast, running from one thing that's on fire to the next. And we don't think to pause and go update the client. And that is your account manager's job to keep track of all the balls that are in flight and remind you to pause and go update the client, or maybe pause and go update the client for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's a good let you, Alex, finish go packing his house send off point here.
Yeah, I'll be a retire. I'm retiring to Florida here as we speak. So
yeah,
so
you're not old enough to go to one of the retirement communities, are you?
They wouldn't let me in the 55 and over, but not far from it. So I mean, the last thing I'll just say then is, if you feel like you have clients who have struggles, who have problems, don't be afraid to pick up the phone and go do that little bit of account management, because it probably is the thing that can mean the difference between keeping a client and losing one. And if you have questions, comments, whatever, Alex Farling, there aren't very many of them on LinkedIn. Go find me. I'm happy to have this conversation all the time.
Cool.
Thank you for your time, man.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you guys having me on. I apologize I didn't bring better audio.
No, you're good.
You're good. Yeah, it's worked out.
Talk to you later.
Alrighty. Take care, guys.
Good week.
Bye.